This is my multi-million-dollar laboratory. Wanna know how I got here? I don't know. This is a pretty brutal line of work. You sure you got the beans? You'll have to get off your high horse if you want to survive out here. My story started when the police found out about a little RV operation I had going. I framed my paraplegic uncle. What was he gonna do? Run? I wound up in a little shithole called Highland Point. But wait, you've already got an RV full of and equipment, and $100. This isn't a zero to hero, rags to riches story. Don't worry. My two friends Chaos and the American healthcare system will deal with that. Wow, you're lucky to be alive. Anyway, here's your bill. Happy? Can we get started now? First, I'm gonna need somewhere to stay. I head to the nearest motel, and I'm informed that it's $75 for a week.
Just a week. Woohoo!
That explains why there's police outside, but how exactly am I gonna get my first $75? I could build my highly addictive empire by breaking into ATMs and vending machines, but that would be immoral. Instead, I can use one of Highland Point's trash for cash bins. Oh my god. After collecting trash all day... Wait, what's that noise? There's a curfew here? That's why it's only $75 a week. Only the police could make me feel like a criminal for clearing litter. With a crisp 75 in my pocket, I head back and rent the room. Alright, time to grow some tea. The local hardware store has all the supplies I need, and the clerk is none the wiser. But that's gonna set me back about... I could pick litter all day, but it would be much more effective to pick enough to buy a litter picker, which is much more efficient. Don't worry, I'll come back to re-litter the streets later. After a full day of community service, I have enough money to start making community tea. So I buy my kit, set it up, then sleep tight, dreaming of all the tea fiends I'm gonna create. That's step 1 complete. Step 2, find a supplier. I call my uncle, who, having forgotten about me framing him because of his dementia, puts me in contact with Albert, who uses a dead drop system. That's lucky, because I have no money. I hope he likes being left on red. I pick up the dead drop, plant the seeds, water them, whisper sweet nothings to them. Who's gonna grow up to be a nice cup of tea? Yes, you are. And boom. Congratulations. You have a tea. Oh crap, it's the police. You! Hands behind your back. Grab his phone. Yep. That's just the guy. What? No, I swear that's not mine. Shut it, pal. We know all about your dirty little secret. I told you we'd get him on the 6th anniversary. What? Yeah, you and your 5 million addicted buddies can't get enough of this game, huh? What are you talking about? This! What was it they got you, huh? The free Epic Heroes? The huge anniversary pack? Oh, that! Yeah, totally. When they offered the birthday package, I just couldn't resist. You get the Epic Heroes Zargala and like $60 worth of free content. And you get to pick a free legendary champion. I picked Loki the Deceiver. I love Marvel. Loki didn't originate from Marvel, you degenerate. Yeah, and between April 10th and May 5th, they're giving everyone another free legendary champion called Ludex Artor. Plus, they're adding a daily reward calendar, and we get to choose the legendary relic we get at the end. Yeah, look, son. And they added background battles, completely changing the meta so it's less grindy. Now you can quickly progress by doing campaigns, then dungeons, then a clan boss, and the arena. Raids PvE is by far the most advanced of any game I've ever played. Look at this clan I created. You can join it too. Wait, really? No, not you two. Yep. All you have to do is click my link, or scan the QR code for all these freebies. You can find me in-game under the name Rix the Tricks. Then you can join my clan, the Substance Abusers, and you can become a Substance Abuser too, and take down the clan boss with me. My favourite part is summoning champions. I'm addicted to trying to get the best ones. Just like when I'm making illegal drinks. What are you waiting for? Before it's too late, use my link or scan the QR code to get $60 worth of free goodies, plus the Epic Hero Zargala. Then once you're in game, use code Supreme6 for the Void Legendary Champion Supreme Garlic. And if you're a new player, you can pick from Supreme Garlic, Su Wukong, Alice the Wonder, or Loki the Deceiver, but only for 48 hours after downloading with my link. And you know what? There's another one. Both new and existing players can use code Gameleap for 1 full energy, an XP brew, and 100,000 silver. So, what are you waiting for? Do it now. You know, you may have convinced... Wait, what was that bit about illegal tea? Unfortunately, nobody is willing to accept tea from a stranger. Wanna buy some? Wanna buy some? Wanna buy some? Wanna buy some? What is the world coming to? First, I need to establish contacts through word of mouth. Once they're nice and addicted, satisfied, they'll tell their friends, who I can subsequently also satisfy. Then they'll go on to tell their friends, etc, etc. Lucky for me, some of the dregs of society will accept anything off of anyone. Go on, little Kyle. Tell your friends. Wait, what if he doesn't have any friends? With a little word of mouth, I'm able to offer free samples to get a small customer base. Ah, my first sale. And from here, well, the world is your opium-infused oyster. Oh, Jesus Christ! Oh my god. With more customers comes more deals. More deals, more money. More money, more production, and suddenly you're 120 hours into a stupid game about selling tea. But I can't stay in this motel. There's a room to rent on the waterfront above a Chinese restaurant. So, after getting my to-be landlord addicted to ibuprofen, I rent the room. Oh yeah, this'll work. At this point, to expand my operation, I acquire some unpaid interns.
Oh, hey Rick. Can I go see my grandma in the hospital now, or?
No, not until we get the 10 million achievement.
I'm sorry, I'll get back to work.
I did most of the work alone, but I was occasionally helped by Lolcat, our anti-police agent, Family Photos, who created our most profitable coffee, Kima, who blew up our lab, Loki, who spent most of his time cleaning litter, and Chaos, who sent me to the hospital at the start. Now I can focus on what really matters, cutting the tea with addictive chemicals. Base tea sells at around $50, but with some black magic, they can push $200. So, after buying a mixing station with most of our earnings, I begin mixing my devilish decoctions. I start simple, adding a dash of cola and Viagra. Sales were through the roof. The people just couldn't get it up. I mean enough. Our little operation was booming. Me in my lab cooking, my assistants on the streets making sales. The relationship with our supplier improved to the point we could meet for bulk sales. And now he offered the full range of strains. We switched to the purple tea, the most expensive. We hired our first full-time dealer, who I mostly fobbed off all the failed experiments to, and gradually began making more and more ambitious mixtures. Up until now, I'd only been adding one ingredient per mix, but you can go crazy with it. There are millions of combinations of beverages, and I was simply fumbling about in the dark until I stumbled on something good. I'd yet to realise that there's a whole ass chart for determining what qualities drinks get, and those qualities are what determines the price. I think. The results of my crude concoctions culminated in the production of
God has abandoned us.
which, when mixed again with beans, makes
God fears what he created.
This was a mix of cola, Viagra, mouthwash, banana, and chilies. Don't ask me how many attempts this took. This sold for a premium, and since it was so addictive, I could hike the price up even more.
Nice.
I hired a second dealer, bought a golden skateboard, gained access to a secret underground black market where I bought upgraded tools, and when my indentured servants returned,
What the fuck? Rick! What is the squalor?
they peddled mobile games as far and wide as they could. Our ability to sell more really increased when we realised we could just kill the police. But this success brought our biggest adversary. We could only deposit 10k without arising suspicion, but most places only take card. So our online balance kept running out, which we needed to buy the copious amounts of Viagra for our insatiable customers. The solution to this? Money laundering. We can buy real estate, properties for production, and businesses for laundering. But like I said, our online balance, which we need in the first place, was constantly depleted. So we had to grind out some dosh to get the ball rolling. But it didn't take long until we acquired our very first business. a laundromat. For laundering money. Very funny, Tyler. This can clean $2,000 per day by layering the money with the business's profits. Then I can use that nice clean money to buy tens of thousands of litres of horse milk to cut into my delicious beverages! And with that, we've effectively completed our operation. We're sustainable now. Well, you know there's no such thing as sustainability in late-stage capitalism. The shareholders must have growth. To that end, we have two options: expand and hard cocktails. The two sort of come hand in hand. There's not enough room in the sweatshop to do much more, so we need another property. There's a bungalow just out of town on the market for $10,000, which is just a case of laundering our money for a week or two and then buying it. We were also able to afford a car wash for additional money laundering. That's the simple part. Once we've set up in our new place, we can start planning to synthesize Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. We're never gonna grow it. It begins again with a supplier, who we're able to establish contact with through the black market. Unlike wood is synthesized, not grown, so we need a lab, as well as acid and phosphorus, which is acquired from the black market. But first, to show that we mean business, we need some new drip. That's more like it. Time to cook. First, the pseudo, acid, and phosphorus are carefully mixed and put over a burner. Yeah, it's nice, isn't it? What the fucking chemo? Then, after about half a day, it's ready to go in the oven. Another half day later, it's crystallized, and can be smashed into pieces ready for the market. You know I gotta add a little chili pea though. Now having access to almost the full range of ingredients, most notably horse love, which seems to universally increase the price. Don't ask me, they're the ones who like it. Oh, I've been stabbed. 200 and see if anyone buys it. So that's hard ticked off. Now to expand. At the black market, we can hire employees. These guys and gals can either grow plants, move and pack items, cook and mix, or clean, but you know I don't really care for that. They're live-in workers. Once you've set up your human rights violation, you can start automating. There's a pretty big problem though. Beyond growing and cleaning, 1 or 2 employees in a little bungalow don't really do much.
Could you pay me in advance?
Are you sure?
Pretty sure.
You're fired. Parker, hello, you're fired.
A chemist can only mix 1 ingredient per station, so if you want to make the big concoctions, you need 5, 6, even 8 mixing stations. They are good for making M&Ms though, you just have to mix the additives yourself. So for now, I hire a chemist to cook the meals, and a grower to grow and dry the Worcestershire sauce, which increases its quality, while I cut the products. By this point, we've unlocked about half the districts, or half the customers, and our new supplier is willing to meet up for bulk sales. But honestly, Monster Munch just wasn't doing it for me. It just felt like a stepping stone towards something greater. Coca-Cola used to have... By the time we'd fully established our business, we were already being contacted by a supplier of coca seeds for chocolate, and our profit margins were high enough to buy the bigger plots of land. We'd bought 2 more businesses for laundering more money, and it just seemed natural to progress straight to delicious no-name soda. But this would be different. No more squeezing a lab into a little bungalow. I bought a barn out of town, nice and spacious, and from the very beginning, I planned for this to be fully automated. At first, I had to do a lot of the work manually, but once I figured it out, I ended up with a decent enough setup. The growers each had a dedicated supply shelf, and were assigned to 6 plants and 2 drying racks, which all fed into a shelf. A handler would then supply the cauldrons with petrol and the dried leaves for a chemist to mix, then cook into heavenly chocolate. Once I figure out what we're adding, another chemist will then add in the additives. That last part is the most awkward. A handler has 5 work slots, with each mixing station needing 1 of those each. So if you have a 5 ingredient, you'll need an entire handler's labour to supply them. Plus, at the time, chemists only had 3 work slots, so an 8 ingredient monster would take 3 chemists. This is a problem because you can only have 10 employees. So I have 3 growers, 2 chemists on cooking, 2 handlers, then at least 2 chemists for mixing. Plus, due to the amount of rubbish on the ground, I needed a cleaner to stop the game lagging, which rounded us out to 10 employees. I must mention that this was the first version of the game. The employees have improved a lot since then, so when I inevitably reworked this setup for the 40th time, just understand that I was trying to optimise for bugs that got fixed later. Anyway, Willy Wonka's Chocolate Factory had been paying for all of this, and my absence had meant the production stopped, and our cash reserves were empty. With our employees now costing upwards of $4,000 per day, we needed to get this operation moving ASAP. But for that, I needed a product. Sure, we had our Heavenly Coke, but that's not enough. You know I need to cut it to increase the price. I still hadn't realised how the pricing worked, or discovered the graph, so my strategy was to mix everything with the base, then take all the ingredients that add the most value, and then start combining all of them together. Ironically, the very first combination of all 6 ingredients I chose was the best, so the next hour spent mixing everything in different orders was completely for nothing. The product I ended up with was Dark Ghost. I forgot to rename it. It consisted of flu medicine, Viagra, batteries, Adderall, and horse. Setting up the mixers back then was, well, A, I didn't understand it, B, it was buggy, and C, the worker management system is a little difficult to keep track of. I could not count the amount of times I forgot who I'd assigned to what shelf. The main problem I was running into was that mixers don't start until their destination is clear, which usually isn't because the next one is waiting for an ingredient, or its destination is full, so they need a buffer shelf. But that means another handler, entirely dedicated to moving drugs between buffer shelves, but we were already at our 10 employee limit. I probably spent about 20 hours here, between AFKing, troubleshooting, and trying to reorganise the workforce so I could increase production. But really, I had my heart set on the next property, the docks. I bet it's so much bigger. I bet I can hire so many more employees. That's where I'll make my huge lab. It may seem like I'm skipping over the barn operations, but my time there was spent almost entirely figuring out how to efficiently use employees, and we had to recoup the huge losses incurred during the whole operation. But, as difficult as it was to produce, Dark Ghost made a huge profit. We were able to buy the Taco Bell in town, which alone could launder a whopping 10k a day, then buy the rights to the dock. I already knew I was going for the 10 million achievement, but I hadn't even got to 1 million yet. In fact, I was hardly even a single % of the way there. So I knew I needed to use everything I'd learned so far to make this new operation perfect. To that end, I didn't even start at the docks. I started by firing one of the growers at the barn, then hired another handler to implement the buffer I was talking about earlier, and finally, the barn became productive. I wouldn't be going bankrupt this time.
Do you want me to put this money away so you can grab it at least?
Yes, please. I have no money. So, I started setting up at the docks, and Lolcat went out dealing to speed up the sales. Meanwhile, Family Photos Man was slaving away at the bungalow. I'd instructed him to make the most expensive product possible, no matter how many ingredients it took. I figured, start with the growing. That way, we'll have a huge backlog of chocolate once everything's set up. But as I did, I realised that the docks also have a 10 employee limit. Fuck, that's so stupid. How could I... There's not enough workers to grow and process everything. Wait, it's simple. Split the production across 2 properties. If we take away mixing from the barn, we free up 4 positions to grow and mix more
Chicken jockey!
Then we have all 10 employees just for mixing and handling at the docks. I'd have to run the product between sites, but luckily, a handler can be assigned to a brick press to compress the tea to carry 20 times more per run. Then, I just unpack at the docks, and the handlers will give it to the chemists. Yep, this is definitely the way. So, as we unlock the last stubborn straight edges of the city, with designer tea specially crafted to be the most addictive to them, I finally set up our ultimate operation in the docks. At this point, we'd unlocked all the customers and all the dealers who sold all of our delicious drinks, apart from a few times we did thunder runs to see how much profit we could make. Fam created Vicodin, our most profitable— it's a legal drug. Once everyone was addicted, we were free to jack off the prices to our heart's content. We did have a little problem with someone assassinating our supplier.
Why are the suppliers always dead?
But that's neither here nor there. And it kind of became a bit of an AFK fest. I quickly realised that we outproduced our dealers, so I could just leave the game running as long as I remembered to sleep at the end of each day. Which was a good thing, because maintaining 100% productivity was a full-time job. Either way, I would just tab out of the game, tabbing back into sleep, then occasionally do a run to grab from the barn, resupply the shelves, and distribute the drugs to dealers. This lasted about, 100 hours. My PC was on for pretty much a week, which wasn't smart, since I can't have the days while I'm sleeping in real life, and you don't make money when the game stops at 4 AM. At this point, it could have, pretty ironically, been called an addiction. I wasn't really having fun, but the gameplay loop always has something for you to do. It's such a— I don't know how to describe it. I'd tab into the game to top up the dealers, but I might as well grab them while I'm out. But they're out of seeds, so I'll just order some from a supplier so I have some for next time. Drop off to the lab, don't forget to unpack it, but it's not being mixed because the first ingredient ran out. Let's just do a full delivery order and maybe one manual run to the shops. Alright, let's put them on the shelves. May as well order the next delivery so I'm not waiting next time. But why isn't one of the chemists working? Let's restart the game. There we go, she's working again. Oh, one of my dealers is running low on drugs now. Repeat ad nauseum. So after about 150 hours, the dealers had enough money for the achievement. That's 1 million. That's another million.
There it is! There it is!
Yippee! We immediately went onto the beta to buy the golden toilet. And that was that. What a surreal experience. Basically a whole week of my life just vanished. I don't recommend going for the 10 mil achievement. 1 million's fun, but 10 is just a grind. Thank you, YouTube, for completely ruining this upload. I'll see you next time. Thanks again to Raid Shadow Legends. Scan the QR code or click the link on screen for a whole bunch of free goodies.